Your voice is really beautiful. And Michael, yours is really beautiful. I'm going to ask you for a moment to do the Renea song together with overtones. Do you mind? Okay. Yeah, it's wonderful. Right? Full voice. So you'll get a sense of how it is replicating vibrations going out in a vast circle. And so you remember how the forms began to arise. In a sense, the voice is replicating a gravity wave, a carrier wave on which our thoughts are expressed. And the sound that one hears deep in the caves, especially in Colorado, one can recall and actually get in touch with that tone that comes from the first sound, the first light that set things in motion. And we ourselves continually vibrate with it. All appearances are vibration. And for our coherence to stay within these dimensions and these realms, our physical form resonates with the tone that came from the original song or sound. And so the original song or sound, it doesn't mean it is permanent. It arose from space, and on the other side of it, it declined. So there's this sense of pulsing, and this pulse gives rise to each of us. We know it in our physical body as the pulse of our blood, and then there are the individual pulses of our organ systems. And when we're in good stead, when we're walking in harmony and when we're at peace, our energy pathways, our organ systems are in harmony with that original tone. And as we move through time, as the years go by, some of that coherence, some of that symmetry is lost. So the coherence is also expressed in the physical form in terms of the chemistry of our brain and the endocrine system as a communication system with the universe. And so the visualizations and the sound pulses are to reaffirm our relationship with the light and the recognition that we are supported and sustained first by light, that our body drinks it, our being is it, and that by focusing our speech and our view on the remembrance that it is a wondrous display, and that all beings are united in this display, and that basically we are different elements of sound, different frequencies of song. And so by remembering this, we are less likely to be caught in the projections of confusion. So imagine, here we can say for the moment, this is the heart electromagnetic field and its direct awareness. And it is continually receiving and giving. So it's composed of two spirals, and there is also an additional energy that is created through those two spirals. And that empty space is connected, is the first sound. It has no partitioning, it just is. So in our life, we are experiencing the echo of the first song, and not separate from that individualized, not separate from that field of awakened mind, even as we individualize. So you think of yourself like bubbles of the spray that arises along the shore as the wave touches the shore. So it touches the shore, bubbles of spray arise, and that is like an instant of our individuated state and the personal sense of I. As the bubbles return to the sea itself and the tide begins to move out, that is the point where, as human beings, we can, oh yes, see again that we are indeed awakened beings, part of a unified field. So there are special practices in preparation when people are approaching death that indicate, oh, you hear a certain sound. And the sound is basically a sound of unwinding. And people recognize it, either when you're in a very dangerous situation where you might be in an accident or something. Very often that very high-pitched sound gives people an indication to make a choice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's an overtone of the key of D. And yes, you notice it in people's voices. It's like another overtone becomes apparent in the voice. So some of my friends who are getting older, I notice it, and they noticed it, and they make some prayers and changes, and it goes away for a while, then it returns. So that sound is unwinding, and it is natural, and it also, there are prayers or mantras that make it possible for people to unwind with recognition and remembrance of their light and the dissolution of the patterns of aggression, fear, shame, blame, pushing away or wanting, and also balancing out the energy or the debts that we may owe to each other. Yeah, so the spiritual energy of debts, it is like a magnet. So you think debt is about money, well, it is about energy. So when someone has offered you something that wakes up your mind, then you have a responsibility to continue working with it and to to offer it, and also to keep the circle returning, that, oh, so I will understand more. So I receive something, I offer it, and I offer it back, so that the circle of understanding continues. So in terms of our individuated self and where human beings can get stuck, is where we think, I am this person alone, and so harmed me, without thinking of, oh, we are people together, and how do I respond to their projections of mind? Do I see them in their empty state? That was the reason for the exercise this morning. Or do I respond with anger and reaction? So one deciding to respond with anger and reaction, it then is like a whirlpool. The water does not go back out with the tide. It is circling around in a whirlpool, which in a sense is your continually coming back to rebirth and echoing the same song until the debt of ignorance and the debt of wisdom is balanced. So what is the ignorance? The ignorance is thinking that someone is separate or less than or more than, without taking responsibility for the wisdom seed within yourself. On a simple level, it is to cause harm with speech, to, how do you say, some people, so they feel good, they tear down others. This kind of, you call it deprecation and gossip, such speech then also limits one's own consciousness and creates a debt or magnetic attraction between you and the object of your dislike or dissonance. So we can see the need for change. Like, example, someone may, as Swaminatha Brahmananda used to say, come correct. So when I would sing with him or play notes with him, and if I was out of time, he would just say, come correct. So come correct is basically coming again to that basic pulse. And that pulse relates to our heart, it relates to the first song. And so at different stages in our lives, we have an opportunity to pacify those areas of conflict and to purify and to actualize our wisdom state. And from the Cherokee perspective, it's happening every 7 years, that you can make amends, and the well-trained mind in an instant makes amends. The well-trained mind in a flash, oh, I see the error of my way. I offer apology. I correct my speech and my thought, and I establish a field of right relationship. I will speak carefully. I respect who you are, like this. And so making amends is an internal process and also an external process. And why do we say it's an internal and external process? Because the bubble that has arisen from the wave is an individual which has the appearance of a membrane. And so that membrane of individualized mind, you let it come through. Oh, I made unkind words. I apologize. I offer my apology, and also I create a field of dynamic speech and action that energizes the wisdom potential within myself and others. So when we're doing the dance, and the secret medicine of sacred geometry is about the membrane of thought, the latest work of thought. So in some of our practices, we make that clear. in terms of the visualization. Those are, for some of you, you'll have those practices. For others, it may not be your path. In either case, the way you recognize it is to observe that a human being is in sacred space and that there are layers, almost like permeable membranes or nets through which we interact with each other. And so these nets, they are very fluid and like these geometric shapes we've created. They're still soft, and they're actually made of copper mesh. And sometimes you can actually see light dancing within them, with especially the duodecahedron, because it also collects energy potential. And human beings, we have great energy potential. And so there's the net that is closest to us is the net of our physical form and its maintenance, its vitality, its health. And it is composed of the messages of our ancestors, the accomplishment, and most especially it is expressing our patterned view, where we've come from in the whirlpool of individual experience. All this is stored and conveyed in that first net, which then becomes the latest work for our bones and our whole being. It is, we are built around the spirals of this latest work. And so then there is our emotion, which is another fluid field. And the emotion connects us with the emotion of every being, and also is a pathway through which our many appearances are expressed. So the emotions of happiness, of joy, of abundance, or fear of not enough, or dislike, hatred, they have a cohesive quality or a repelling quality. So the energy of love, it is cohesive, and it draws certain things to us. The energy of like and dislike can dispel and send away, and may even disturb your reception of life force that can be sustaining. And our very speech also contributes to what we receive and what goes. And so one of the important lessons is like being thankful, appreciation. It completes a circuit. Even when things look wild and it looks as though everything is changing, to have appreciation that you even notice it. This is important. And to have the appreciation that, oh, this is a lesson, this is an opportunity. These things we can learn from. And I dedicate the experience as the sense of I transforms and transmute. I dedicate this experience that others may have the means to transform and be freed of such causes. So you're in the process recognizing it and also setting the tone that the very thought form itself or the emotional pattern does not continually rearise. Also, this energy field of emotion, it surrounds the earth, and many people get trapped there. And many thought forms exist there without wishing to acknowledge their natural luminosity. And such thought forms attempt to disturb you. they wish to gather you into the mind or the emotion that occludes your recognition of your natural luminosity. And so it's important to see, oh, there it goes, another one of those energy beings that arises from emptiness and chooses to keep itself in a ball of confusion. May it find its way into the light. And may such appearances of those emotions that may be reflected, me, my relationships, may they also be transformed into light. Then one looks deeply. And so the visualization of examining the heart and looking at the energy pathways is to see, hey, where are these thought forms, these conditioned views hidden? Where do we keep them? And how may we transform them? Because like dust bunnies, like hiding under the bed, these thought forms hide in your head and they become patterns in the body. So on a physiological level, the patterns are addressed through movement and breathing exercises and sometimes very deep physical therapy will help ameliorate such patterns. So the body is expressing the thoughts that we have not had time to or made time to fully integrate. You know, there's energy pockets of information. They're sitting there waiting for us to observe them and see them in their natural empty state. So that is the second net. And so the emotions of a place touch each person, the emotions of a neighborhood. And so few people who are saying prayers or like in the Bronx, I know many ladies who are reciting the rosary. And this is taming those dust bunnies of aggression in their neighborhoods. People are becoming a bit more kind. So the mindfulness on the prayer, on the beads, it's a tone, it's setting a tone. And the wave of those tones dispel and dissolve the dust bunnies of aggression. So whatever is the person's path, that's why I say these are secular teachings, although the essence of them are also the heart of every mystery teaching. The very heart of a human person who's dedicated to actualizing wisdom, to exploring their gifts of their mind, their body experience, and to share that with others, then we are creating a field of abundance. And we are energizing the capacity for human beings to receive. For example, recently people found in their compost were some chemical deterrent to the well-being of the plants. And the plants curled up, the leaves curled up. In a sense, thought forms that are delicious to good health and well-being, they cause one's body and mind also to curl up. In a sense, that's where spasms are coming from. As well as you may need more of certain things in your diet. So a poison was in the compost. It happened in Burlington. Lots of people bought compost there. We didn't. And then they looked, and the vegetables, the leaves were curling. And that indicated to only one person had the sense to recognize, uh-oh, there is some toxin here. And so now they're analyzing what was the toxin, how did it get in the compost, and saying don't eat those vegetables. So in terms of our consciousness, there are toxic thoughts, toxic emotions that, in a sense, cause our wisdom potential to curl up. And if you had a rough relationship or a rough marriage, you know what that is like. And you also know the importance of the remedies and the importance of knowing how to establish those boundaries of the ideal relationship. So that is, in a sense, determining the osmotic pressure of your field. So you first recognize by setting the boundary, these are the things we call for. This is the ideal. And to see that ideal in yourself presently, and to know that there's nothing missing, that it's not about need, it is about sharing, then one is making more clear the boundaries of right relationship. So, example, love, we think, is very romantic, and also, in truth, love is very communicative. And it is really something people work with, and it has no limits. So what we often call love is possession or need. And when you have need to possess, then you've forgotten what you have. So you think of, to recognize one's wholeness brings people's relationships to a more profound state of mutual respect. So why is that important? Why we talk about it? Because every being, that we are all in relationship. We're in relationship with each other, our neighbors, the shopkeepers, the environment. And so at every point, there is seeing other. If we think the shopkeeper is less than or just, then we are missing the point. Because the shopkeeper is conveying a means for us to accomplish our dream. And there's a whole dynamic. When people who are successful don't complain about paying their bills, they understand it's about relationship. I offer, I receive. And that we made a commitment to meet and exchange energy in a certain way. So it somehow slipped away, and it looks like banks know it all, yet the heart of awareness understands the exchange of breath through the awareness of the tree and the exchanging of the bushel baskets of beans, corn, squash, because it is about sustaining one another. So these things are tied in our emotions. And in terms of the spiraling energy, the 5 streams that move to give rise to the organ systems, and yet themselves are empty and inseparable from awakened wisdom states. These streams, they also represent certain qualities. And so love, communication, commerce, building, these are more balanced ways, and somehow grasping, holding, then we forget that it is about a breath. So the sun shines upon the leaf, and the leaf, it synthesizes that into chlorophyll. The water is drawn up the tree from the earth and making for us oxygen and taking away the carbon dioxide. So you see very clearly that exchange. And there is a membrane, a pattern, through which that exchange is made. So in terms of our life work, we think of the pattern of our lives. What do we choose to do? Having the human life is very precious, not to waste. And okay, these gifts I have, what gifts do I wish to further develop? And what will I leave as a memory, as a guide to others? Like my mother, she always had a brownie camera. And she took pictures everywhere she went. But no one saw the pictures. She just had them hidden in bags and bags and bags. And then after she passed, my daughter, she made plans. She was very organized. She told Lisa, do all these things with these pictures. And we were able to put together a very beautiful DVD. And there were a lot of secrets that she had kept the papers about, a lot of things that we sort of suspected, and there they are. So in a sense, everyone has stored in their body photos, images, emotional images of this life, future lives, other lives. And these images can inspire or they can hinder. It is how we view them. How do we view the experiences of our lives? Do we see the opportunity, or do we see, oh, I didn't like that, or oh, that was difficult? When you see something that was difficult, you also see, hey, we got through that. We moved through that. So the view and how we speak to ourselves, again, that background chatter that is expressed, being clarified as the throat center, is creating boundaries in our lives. So, and order or disorder. And so as the time moves and we are looking, okay, where are we now? Do we prepare to leave a legacy? Again, this is from Cherokee, that you're young, you're infant, you're in the arms of your family, in the circle of your family when you're born. Your consciousness begins before that, and you at some point recognize you are a different person from those who hold you, and you begin to acquire information and look around. What is happening? This is interesting. Oh, it is me. If I do this, this comes. If I do that, that happens. The beginning of recognition about your relationship with the world and the power of voice. And then there's the sense of being part of and having a gift to offer in a circle of relationship. And also these things I want to know more about. Then developing those gifts and creating an outpouring, doing something with what you've learned and creating community and inviting those in your community to share their knowledge. Then as you get older, you see, oh, these things I've learned very well. This is a legacy that I can share. And then when you're very ill, and you order it, and then when you're very old, it's contemplation. And so the sound that gives people the idea, it can be a choice point, a warning of a choice point, an indication of a choice point, and people make whatever changes, or they decide that it is their time. So this conversation began about the question of the sound of death, and there are old Cherokee teachings about how people prepare, and there are Vajrayana teachings about how people prepare, and I suppose that there are Jewish and Christian teachings about how to prepare when it's time, when you sense it is. So why is this important? It means that at all stages you have the opportunity to put to rest doubt and fear and dissonance at any stage in our lives. And there's never an end, because integration, understanding, the bubble returns to the field and continues its exploration. So what does that have to do with sacred space and geometry? Basically, by recognizing yourself as expressive of the dynamic of forms arising on the microcosmic and macrocosmic, the same dance occurs. By recognizing that we ourselves are part of that dance, we may establish the field of good relationship, and we also may clearly express the gifts and the wisdom that is within, and invite it to also be expressed in others. Creating beauty is a pathway for people's understanding, so that they may recognize that symmetry of time and space. So then there is a third layer, so to speak, network or net, and we can say that is about building. What we build with our consciousness, and also the social interaction, the karmic interaction in relationship. And it interfaces with the planets and galaxy. And there is a fourth layer that recognizes the underpinnings, the ideal, so to speak, from whence the forms arise. And the fifth layer, you might say, is inside out and outside in. And the fifth layer you can see as the undifferentiated potential and awareness, from whence all appearances arise. So all this is connected, all this is occurring, we are all part of this. And it is very wonderful, the gift of the human life, and where we put our attention, because we are also multi-dimensional beings. So here we are sitting in this precious temple of the Ada. We call it the Adawi, the Wise Protector's Temple. We're sitting here, and also our echo is left in a chair somewhere at home, and also the reverberations of this moment, they are reverberating into many futures. Uh-huh. Yep.
If we go back to the original sound becoming light and water expressing that purity as well as other aspects, and we focus forgiveness and remembrance,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to me that we have to have serious structures of atonement, guilt, grief, reparation, salvation, and that we have to correct a perception in the past that politics is a broken medicine, to say politics is a dharma like anything else, which is pure or impure depending on you, and to say that as we go from the heart to the larger body, to the galaxy, eventually to the belly of the Dharmakaya, we have to go to the point where when it's down and dirty, whether it's Trail of Tears or Holocaust or Syria or whatever, that we own the fact, or we own respect for ourselves and others, and say, if it acts like the mother, father energy coming together to create a child of bliss, we listen to them. And so I can understand in a general way that we have to allow all to resolve into the natural level, or that at that time, the peacemaking thing, whether we call it radical or peaceful peacemaking, things return to their elemental state. But in the world of people,
We create skillful methods of mediation and reconciliation. That is the medicine. And even with our family, our friends, our co-workers, it's establishing skillful methods. And those skillful methods are based upon a field of energy and knowledge that impacts on everyone. And first it is to acknowledge and name the grief and to purify it. And how do you purify it? By recognizing that, oh yes, we each experience this. And in that experience, we also begin to forgive. You did this to me, you did this to me, and this happens when you're in the process of reconciliation. And it is steadfast with the vision of we can acknowledge what we have in common and come to resolution is what gets people past and through that reactive state. In a sense, the unsaid words, the thought, like love withheld, becomes stagnation that reverberates. So people make peace, and it's not about blaming, because it's a whole system of ignorance that everyone has participated in.
I think there's something much simpler than that, which is if we can't wipe the slate clean and start anew, we can't create. It's just a contradiction.
Actually, the old idea of every 52 years, which is also common in Mesoamerican tradition and in Egyptian and Judaic tradition of forgiving all debts and people starting anew is important. In the Cherokee, we call it friends making new, where we acknowledge our errors but before we forgive, we take an internal look and we recognize what is it about my body, speech, and action that is giving rise to the opportunity for discord. And how can I more clearly open the gate to clear speech and action? So, friends making new is part of the ceremonial cycle. And then every 52 years, there is the putting out of all fires and the grand renewal. And this is the opportunity for people to take stock of their activities on an individual and a family, clan, nation, land level. And so we look at, well, we have not given food to those folks who were hungry. Why did we do that? We were afraid that we would not have enough for our winter. Oh, we did have enough, although it was lean. What have we learned? We learned to plant more in case there is emergency or need. Did you hear me? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yep. That's what we can do different. And so the idea of healing, because what we see going on in the outer world is basically the unheard cries of the inner children and the unresolved individual family issues. The same is because it is a human family, we're all relatives. When you look and you see that we've come from the same, we are supported by Earth, and perhaps there were originally 13 different mitochondrial groups, and now perhaps only 12 or 7. We're all relatives. So the spiritual application is not really just sitting on our cushion. It's like, how do we treat each other and how do we move in the world? And I think most of you've chosen your professions based on that knowledge. You understand that you can make something better for others. So sitting on the cushion lets us see. And then there is the expression of that wisdom for the benefit of every being. Remembering the lesson of Old Cherokee and the ongoing lesson of the Kogi and the Avars in Central America, the special person is away from everyone. And actually, you can be around, I've met Avars, and their energy is so, your circuits will get blown. And if they want to, they will bring down their energy to come into a sacred space to meet you. And their consciousness is vast, and the energy that moves through them is unhindered. So what does it mean for a human being? It means that is also our potential, and the contrivances of society basically we tune into certain views and accept them, and then can be locked in them. So those who are away, they're maintaining that pure view, and at many points they come out of the cave, out of the forest, to quicken. It just, sometimes it's a sacrifice because it takes a lot from them. They come out into the world to quicken folks and remind folks, and then they disappear again. So it is not just our sitting. If Shakyamuni just stayed in meditation, people would not know what he experienced. So we study, we train the mind, we learn, we develop our skill, our consciousness, so that the wisdom potential within us is revealed and that others may see it. So this again is part of recognizing the sacred parameters or sacred boundaries, because within certain places or within certain mind forms or shape forms and even color, we can foster an awakening. Like an example, it's not a pleasant example, yet it works. Many prisons now paint the interior walls rose or pink, understanding it keeps violence down. So that's an example of color, practical application of recognition of vibration. And there's so much more. So during the lunch period, you have a question?
Well, yes, just in this same stream of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading some psychological studies about how ignorance wants to perpetuate itself and how that happens in our minds.
Yes.
And it made me think of something that Barry brought up, the importance of confession in the process out loud, the importance of the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not enough to contemplate what on our side.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about the additional energy and recognition that comes with expressing it to someone else
Mm-hmm.
that is connected, it seems to me, to the part of our mind that wants to keep things hidden from ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's too easy to forget that little inner realization of what we have done wrong unless we're taking the additional step of. Can you say something about the importance of the voice?
Yeah, the importance of the voice, the vibration of choice, and the acknowledgement of the errors of our way makes apparent even the hidden storehouse of confusion, and also begins setting the pace and creating the pattern to change. So that view, which actually becomes collected within our subconscious mind or even in the amygdala, it becomes so basic that people don't realize what they're doing or how they're behaving. And so when we speak out, the vibration of I confess makes the change. Also the vibration of our mantra, the vibration of our commitment spoken verbally, this actually makes changes in the body, which can be studied, and some of the studies are fascinating in terms of people's healing and well-being. Some years ago, maybe late 90s, MIT was basically charting the sound of illness and certain music too. And certain sounds, like certain cancers, were like the music of Chopin. And some of the questions that arose were, will antidotes arise of harmonious sounds? Well, theoretically, we know those antidotes do arise from harmonious and sacred sound. So people playing harps, which are held close to their bodies, actually become healed of what appeared as incurable things. Because they're playing the harp, it's on the body, they're learning the precision of reaching the right tones, and healing comes. So they didn't say much after that, because you can't really make a lot of money on harp playing. I think that sometimes understanding is hidden. Either it's hidden because you want to work for it, or the universe wants us all to work for it. And what is most important is that our voice, like that's creating the clear boundary. I caused harm to you. I apologize. And I correct my speech, my thought, and action by doing thus. And to actually say it to someone, or if they're not present, to visualize it that you are meeting. This clarifies the field of one's own life and also um, makes clear that one does not create such a race again. Yeah. Yep.
I wonder too about this whole idea in human development about witnessing and the importance that we are a species that are very interdependent, unlike other animals. So we really grow in the presence of another. And that this is part of our DNA, and that it seems to me that when we confess, we have somebody who witnesses us. And it goes back to our very primordial burden in this life. And I wonder if you could speak to that.
The witness calls people to recall, and the witness becomes the mirror and the circle, not only of reflection, also of accomplishment. Some of you may have heard me describe this. Many years ago, I was in Montecito and Santa Barbara with a friend who is also my German publisher, and we were walking through town, and I felt this spiral of inexorable longing, like I must go to this place. It literally drew me to a corner, and there were 5 women standing there dressed in black, silent. And they were witnesses for peace, I think, is what they were called. And I stood and watched, and I was touched by the depth of their call. So the witness, the confession, the share, in a sense, it supports that ability to find methods of transformation. Yeah. Yes, you had a thought.
When I do ceremony, and I go out and I spend time with my relations, and I focus on just being connected. I get drawn to the human experience and what I've been through up until that time. And then when I go into ceremony at the end of the year and I go to that sacred tree, and the Creator pulls me up into that tree, Ganapati pulls me up into that tree, I allow myself not to fear. I allow myself only to be open to that experience. And so as a human being, on 2 legs on this earth, I sometimes make mistakes, but I don't beat myself up over it. I go through it, and then I learn to answer to only to Galamadi and what Galamadi has in store for me here on this earth. But through my practice of ceremony and doing this as I was taught from a very little boy, that everything is free. Everything. Everything is free. You are here. And everything that you touch, you have a positive and a negative to it. And so the negative is a good lesson, and the positive is a good lesson. And then you come to the middle, like the coyote song says, come to the middle, dance in the middle, and turn yourself all the way around so you can honor all your relations in that circle and learn and just be in humility this way. And that's what that song says. You are the Dao, and I honor you like that. And you are so illuminated. I come here in the Ywahoo, from the Ywahoo, to say that I love you. Because you lead these people this way, in this temple, as family. I come here in that sacred way. As the wind keeps blowing around us, and you keep teaching, I feel my heart being broken open. And a new being is arising from your Thunderbird. And what you teach. So when you talk about ignorance and being a little slow, that's what Creator wanted us to be, slow, like the turtle. Because when the turtle came, she brought life. She carried life on her back. So all the women and the men who are in the women's presence of this day, on this earth, that we love, who is female, it is time to take her back. It's time. I'm not a person that allows myself to show a lot of emotion because that's the way I was taught. But I was led. I was led because I listened to my grandmother. So all of these things that you're sharing, Elise, grandmother, it's powerful. So the people have to sit and listen because the answer will come in the next sentence.
And it arises in our hearts continuously. The answers arise within our hearts.
I honor you that way. I'm in awe of what you've done in your long life and many lives here. So these people here are amazing.
They really are. You have had a chance to speak to each other?
We haven't connected. There's a couple that I'd like to connect to more.
Yes.
And but I'm this place that you all have created, and everyone is so focused. But the song, that song, I heard from your voice as a little boy, and I remember, and that's where the memory comes from. And I remember Grandfather Mad Hatter and the Shinto priest. And I remember that. I see that. I was there. And I know who you are. You're chosen by God Almighty to be the vessel of the Ywahoo on this earth. For that we love you. And we honor you.
Oh, I do. Yeah. The power of relationship. This afternoon, I want to share more about how we can see the past, present, and future and share where we've all been. That you opened the door for us to share this about how, as human beings, can you be here this afternoon, Jeannie? Okay. How we may see through the eyes of each other and hear with the ears of each other. My clan sister, Patricia Diasis, when she was a little girl, she was about 7, and her mother made her a special outfit for a dance in a recital, and it was like Chinese outfit, and with a special hat. And I was just looking out the window, and she flashed into my mind, like, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, I'm going to be in the show, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, look at this, look at this. And we didn't actually meet for years. And when I saw that picture, I just laughed so hard because we do share our experience. And in a sense, that was our promise as explorers, that we will explore and we'll return it, what we've learned. So it's lunchtime, and we conclude this session with a deeper appreciation of just how we are connected. So may all beings benefit from our time and practice together, and their wisdom potential in each one flourish and grow. Wado. And we resume at 3 o'clock, so those online know we'll be here and ready for them, and that's good. The notes get thicker and thicker.
And would you like the purple this one as well?
No, I took them and put them in one folder. Thank you.